Hello, you are watching Shalom World News. I'm Rory McLennan coming to you from Glasgow, Scotland. Here are the latest headlines from around the world. Major Archbishop Sviatoslav Shevchuk of the Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church has made a heartfelt appeal for Ukraine and its people. He made this appeal while speaking with reporters on a mission with the embassies of Poland and Ukraine to the Holy See. The Major Archbishop called for the cessation of violence and killing, saying that this will be the first step to genuine and lasting peace. He added that peace is something deeper than the absence of war. Major Archbishop Shevchuk spoke not only of winning in war, but of overcoming the very spirit of war and defeating it in its causes. He spoke of how people have become accustomed to the sound of air raid warnings and that missiles can still fall anywhere from Kiev to Lviv. The Major Archbishop added that the main worry for Ukraine is the cold and the difficulty to staying warm because of power surges. At a conference sponsored by the Italian Embassy to the Holy See in Rome, Vatican Secretary of State Cardinal Pietro Parolin discussed the need to develop fresh diplomatic strategies to put an end to the conflict in Ukraine. He said one should take inspiration from the famous Helsinki conference that took place in the 1970s during the Cold War. He said Europe must rediscover the Spirit of Helsinki and pursue new paths of peace in the face of the barbarism ongoing in Ukraine and the global nuclear threat. The Cardinal once again warned against the danger of getting accustomed to the war, saying that Europe should therefore work for a new European peace conference. By doing so, he said it may once again be the beacon of a civilization founded on peace, law and international justice. Meanwhile, the rector of Santa Sofia Cathedral in Rome, Father Marco Semehen, called for humanitarian aid as the war grinds on in Ukraine. He also hopes for concrete gestures of help consisting of donations or works of charity. In a ceremony that took place on the south lawn of the White House on Tuesday, President Joe Biden officially signed the Respect for Marriage Act into law. Catholic leaders have criticised the plan for not offering strong enough protections for people who believe marriage is between one man and one woman, in keeping with church teaching. This law would repeal the 1996 Defence of Marriage Act and recognise same-sex marriages on a federal level. After the new act was approved by the US House of Representatives on December the 8th, with a vote of 289 to 169, Mr. Biden signed the bill. The US Catholic bishops complained about the bill's lack of protection for persons with religious objections in a letter sent to Congress in November. In the letter, both Cardinal Timothy Dolan of New York and Bishop Robert Barron of Winona Rochester said the modified act increased the risk of government discrimination against Catholic ministries, believers, and other Americans who support a traditional definition of marriage. The US military urged Nigeria on Tuesday to launch a thorough inquiry into claims made by Reuters that the Nigerian army murdered children while battling militants. The Pentagon issued a statement saying the Department of Defense is disturbed by the claims contained in the Reuters piece, and we join our colleagues from the State Department in pressing the government of Nigeria to launch an impartial investigation. The spokesperson added that the US military had no planned or scheduled meetings with the Nigerian armed forces or leadership at this week's US-Africa Leaders Summit. The Reuters report reveals that over the past 13 years, Nigerian troops systematically killed children in areas where they battled Islamist insurgents. The children were killed as the military were told that they could be supporters of Boko Haram or the Islamic State. Pope Francis has emphasised the significance of setting up the manger or nativity scene during preparations for Christmas. The Holy Father tweeted, "Preparing the creche for baby Jesus, we once again learn who our Lord is. He is the God of humble meekness, of mercy and love, who intervenes always respecting our freedom and our choices." In December in 2019, the Pontiff had signed an apostolic letter entitled Admirabile Signum on the worth of the Christmas nativity scene. The Pope stated in the letter that how the manger is arranged is not significant. What counts is that it speaks to our lives. The Holy Father said that the nativity scene speaks of the love of God, the God who has become a child, to tell us how close he is to every human being, whatever his condition. On Saturday, Australia's Foreign Ministry imposed sanctions on Iranian entities and 6 individuals over human rights violations. These sanctioned entities include Iran's Morality Police and the Basai Resistance Force. Australia also imposed sanctions on 7 Russian individuals. The ministry said that the listings demonstrate the Australian government's commitment to take clear action to assert the country's values and to hold perpetrators of serious human rights violations and abuses to account. In addition to human rights sanctions, Australia is joining partners to announce further targeted financial sanctions on 3 Iranian individuals and 1 business involved in the supply of drones to Russia for use against Ukraine. 6 people, including 2 young police officers, lost their lives in a shooting spree that took place in Wiambilla, Queensland on Monday. The murdered police constables Matthew Arnold and Rachel McCrow were at the spot looking for a missing person when the incident took place. 2 other police officers were also injured in the shooting. According to reports, 3 individuals were involved in the attack. Queensland Police said that the circumstances surrounding the incident, including the deaths, will be investigated by them with the assistance of homicide detectives. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese paid tribute to the shooting victims. At least 100 people have died in floods and landslides as torrential rain battered Kinshasa, the capital of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Prime Minister Jean-Michel Sama Lukonde visited the devastated region amid the ongoing rescue process. A crucial supply route and major roadways were shut off in the city of around 15 million people. According to Health Minister Jean-Jacques Mbugani Mbanda, 141 people have lost their lives, though this figure needs to be verified with other agencies. State television reports that the government has declared 3 days of national mourning. The city has become more susceptible to flash floods during heavy rains, which have become more common due to climate change, due to poorly regulated rapid urbanisation. Earlier in 2019, at least 40 people were killed in a similar flood. A Mexican pro-life organisation, Pasos por la Vida, or Steps for Life, has called on the government to ensure the safety of pregnant women in the country against the backdrop of the murders of pregnant women. Over the past few days, 3 women were killed in Mexico, of which 2 were pregnant. Steps for Life decried the recent murders. The organisation also condemned the study by UN Women, which reported that 1 in 2 women in the country had faced some form of violence. Pilar Rebollo, a spokesperson for the organisation, emphasised that the widespread demand of Mexican society at the moment is the elimination of all forms of violence against women. She said that protection must also be given to the unborn children alongside their mothers. The Assembly of Catholic Ordinaries of the Holy Land has expressed concern over the rapidly deteriorating situation of Christians in the Holy Land. In a December the 12th statement that welcomed the increase of visitors to the Holy Land, Christian leaders said that in 10 years, due to the extreme pressure by Muslim and Jewish groups, no Christians would be left in the region. The group added that more pain and violence will result from the lack of a genuine peace process based on international law, due to deep mistrust and even hatred taking root in the hearts of both Israelis and Palestinians. The Assembly also urged religious and political leaders to promote respect for one another rather than hostility or division. However, despite the raging violence between the Israeli army and Palestinians in the West Bank, the pre-Christmas mood in Bethlehem is joyful and optimistic. The arrival of tourists in the city brings much-needed good news to local Christians. At least 100 cases of abduction, forced faith conversion and forced child marriage of girls and women belonging to the Christian community have been reported over the last 3 years in Pakistan. The report, Conversion Without Consent, published by Voice for Justice in association with Jubilee Campaign, recorded the cases from January 2019 through to October 2022. According to the data published last week, 27 cases were reported in 2019, 12 in 2020, 42 in 2021, and 19 up until October this year. According to the data, the Punjab reported the most cases with 86, followed by Sindh with 11 cases, Islamabad with 2, and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa with 1. The report also reveals that the majority of the girls who are victims are minors, but perpetrators intentionally fabricate their ages on marriage certificates to 18 or older in order to avoid prosecution. The report urges affirmative action to be taken to safeguard and uphold minority rights, particularly in the context of reshaping the current civil and criminal justice system to accommodate the needs of those subjected to forced conversions and their families. Chaldean Patriarch Cardinal Louis Raphael Sacco has called the faithful to fast for 3 days for peace in Iraq and the whole world while preparing for Christmas. The Cardinal said that the special fast for peace is scheduled to take place on December the 21st to the 23rd and is meant to prepare the faithful to welcome the birth of Jesus Christ. He added that the fasting can be accompanied by assistance for Christian refugee families in need, such as those who were thrown out of their prior refugee camp and were made to depart on the local authorities' orders. 130 refugee families will be housed in the renovated structures of the former Chaldean seminary in Dora, a neighbourhood south of Baghdad. Cardinal Sacco said that the days of special fasting for peace could be days of prayer and penance, abstinence from meat, fish and alcohol, and renunciation of destructive actions and attitudes like slander, lying, envy, conceit, and greed. 3 Christian students who received no contact orders after publicly voicing their religious opposition to same-sex marriage after filing a case against the University of Idaho won a $90,000 settlement. As part of the settlement, the university officials also revoked the orders against the students and a faculty advisor, all of whom were members of the university's Christian Legal Society. The non-profit legal organisation Alliance Defending Freedom, which represented the students, announced the settlement. After receiving the orders from the university's Office of Civil Rights and Investigations, the students filed the case in late April. The lawsuit claims that the students went to a college LGBT gathering to promote a biblical view of marriage and sexual morality. When a student inquired about their opinions, they provided their viewpoints and handed the student a note indicating an interest in continuing the conversation. However, college authorities banned the 3 students from speaking. And those are your latest headlines. Do join us again tomorrow for more. And do remember, you can always visit swnews.org for more updates. Shalom.